the one Christy's trying to get.
It's like, it's halfway done. It's halfway
This is on the 14th, right?
Yeah, the 14th.
Yeah,
15th.
well, who knows? Yeah.
He does something stupid.
It's like having kids, yeah.
Right.
Are y'all sending me my next meeting? Yeah, I can send it to us. She'll probably
Red sheet,
Oh, because the restrictions are so.
no, you have to be with the ticket.
So that.
Yeah, I know, well, you see about your past.
I'll be one of your references. Yeah, I'll see if I can be a reference. No problem for me.
Teaching with them. You're gonna be at that time. Even if it's 15, not to also go recession. You're gonna be there, yeah.
Remember, I was saying Sundays on the 15th.
That's it, yeah.
I was like, Sundays.
Well, they were gonna do it on the 14th. First of all, every place that I would have reception was booked. And then by 2 or 3 in the morning, it's going, seriously? I gotta take out, you know, or I gotta either, I'm being taken out or I'm gonna take out, so. So we're gonna have just about a chat club, it's kind of
Well, I think Bo finds like.
convention, it overlooks the city.
She comes in and out.
Oh.
You guys just something taped on the side. It's back on my computer. Like, I gotta wash it. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm ready to go to bed. My dog smells like crap. It's like, crap. All right. Get to
So do the free enterprise circle for several $25 an hour more.
All right, let's,
I'll get you.
so you guys, it's 10:18, we did 10:19, so we're 4 minutes off of what we were trying to do, but so much better than yesterday. Yesterday, we were running on average of double, like we would say 10 minutes, it was 20, you know, so this time we were only off by 4 minutes, so continuous improvement, which is awesome. And we've covered so many things through the discussion this morning that it's going to allow us to move through some of these biocodes a little faster, so we've already picked up 50 of our 40 minutes that we were off, so we'll be good on time.
Yeah, and some of these biocodes are a lot easier than the others. Biocode 2 is really hard because it's a whole new way of thinking about emotions. Biocode 4, communication, gets a little hard, but 3 and 5, you know, you can zip through very quickly. So we're good with time, if y'all were thinking around that. So, quick review, you're in a challenging situation, somebody is saying something or doing something that's driving you crazy. Biocode 1, what do?
Back to you.
Bring it back to you. It's driving you crazy. You're starting to feel really frustrated in that moment. Stop the story about them or you, whatever the situation is. You find how many words to describe how it's making you feel. What's the one word? Frustration, right? Or whatever. And then you practice what? The opposite. You say, Jill, practice patience. And then what we do after that is more layered, but that's the first 2 steps. Does that sound like we could do that?
Mm-hmm.
So all this time we've been talking, that's what our takeaway is. That's all I want you to remember. You know, if you remember nothing else, just remember, bring the focus back to me, stop the story, find one word to describe how it makes me feel, and say to yourself, regardless of how you feel or function, because it's not going to feel like the opposite word, it's going to feel like the weaker word, say, practice calm. You're not going to feel calm. You feel like pushing them over or something, you know, but you're going to say it anyway. Each time you do that, I promise you, the muscle will start to strengthen and you will actually start to feel that way, okay? Eventually. Got it? Biocode 1, Biocode 2. Biocode 3 is an observation skill, period. That's all it is an observation skill. And you have to be able to understand emotions, because there's times when things will work and there's times when things won't work. We've all seen that, right? When people are either emotionally elevated and upset and angry, and you try to have a conversation with them, you know, it really doesn't, I mean, has it ever worked for you guys?
Can we put you guys back again? Because we're sort of back in
Yeah.
this, like, really,
Yeah.
that's so much better.
So we're going to divide emotions into 2 separate categories. it's gonna be functional or stable, right? Stable emotions, or dysfunctional or unstable emotions. Are you with me? So if we look at BioCode 3, we're gonna look at this little chart over here. See the chart, right? And you can see that emotions run in 3 different categories, right? When emotion gets high and unstable, right? That's anger, frustration, you're not listening to me, how many times do I have to tell you this? Like, you're really pissing me off. It's a flare up going on there, right? When emotions are unstable, whether it's high and angry like that, or upset, or low, nobody's listening to me. We've all seen that too, right? It's not bad, it's just unstable, right? When emotions are high or low, it's never the time to problem solve, because it's feel time, it's time to feel, it's not time to deal. The only time we deal is when emotions are neutral and stable, and neutral doesn't mean like, hi, I am calm like that. It just means it's a stable emotion. We could be really excited, or we could be really calm, but it's still a neutral, stable emotion. Are you with me? So if you try to have a conversation with anybody when their emotions are high or low and unstable, I don't care what you say, like a court of law, like anything you say or do will be used against you, period. It's like, I'm so upset with you. You promised that you would do that, and you didn't do that. I know I'll do it next time. Yeah, you'll do it next time. You never do the next. You know, every time you say you're going to do it, all that's going to come out of that person is more of the same. Nobody loves me. I love you. No, you don't. If you love me, you'd be there for me. I'm there for you. You're never there for me. Right? The emotion gets protected because it's time to feel for that person, but it's really not time to deal. So you have to allow that motion and be in the feel mode. But it doesn't mean you need to be interacting with other people when you're like that, or when you notice they're like that. So we have to be able to see what's going on in my emotional states, what's going on in other people, so I know if I'm supposed to be interacting with them, if it will be functional or not. That's really helpful in business. It's helpful at home, but it's really helpful in business, because how many conversations do we have around a table like this when the emotions start getting out of control, when people are really talking more about dissatisfactions about people not showing up, or you're never there, or you didn't come to the meeting, or you're not listening. They're not talking about facts. They're not talking about strategies. They're talking about disappointments of human behavior. Period. It's like one of my favorite stories about that is like Sunday morning, not to say anything about guys, but you know, the wife just like, you know, cleaned the house, you know, did everything, got the kids ready for all their sports, went to soccer, basketball, came home, carpooled, made the lunch and everything, said, honey, I know it's Sunday, it's your day off, could you just do me one favor? Just empty the dishwasher. Oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So she just put in, you know, 25 hours in, she walks in, spent as could be, groceries in hand, kids pulling on her, got the whole, you know, we've all seen this kind of thing, and she looks at the dishwasher and it's like, not done. So
I got the remote though.
yeah, you got the remote. He's laying on the couch, he's got the remote, like this, but it's Sunday, it's my time, I work hard and I do this. I ask you for one thing. The least you could do is empty the dishwasher. You never listen to me. I never listen to you. You don't realize what I do. Who the heck's talking about strategies about chores and dishes? We're talking about disappointments of human behavior when expectations aren't met. When emotions are elevated like that, it's really not a good time to problem solve and sit in a neutral position and have a conversation about how do we start to create, like you did with the vacations, better strategies about dealing with things when they don't go according to plan. But I promise you, if you don't pay attention to BioCode 3, you're going to be in a lot of emotionally charged situations, internally and externally, because you don't know the proper timing. So the key to BioCode 3 is...
Yeah, I was going to say in terms of business too, an emotional state is distraction. Is that, you know, trying to contact somebody, get your point across when they're distracted or they're really busy. It's not particularly emotional, so we're thinking about anger or unstable, but at the same time, that is not the time to approach them. Probably what I did like with Mommy yesterday, to come up and say, oh, blah, 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 and you know, you've got something else is on their minds. That distraction is a, or they're incredibly busy. I mean, you just have to That to me is right up there with the high.
Absolutely, and you think we're always pressed for time, there's never enough time and there's always too much to do. So you think I gotta just get that off my agenda, but the truth is, you're just gonna have, like you did, repeat conversations with that person and waste way more time than being mindful, hey, let's just step away from this, let's take a quiet place together where I could get your attention, because I really need to talk about this specifically with you, and could you help me with that? Then they're gonna pull aside and really focus as opposed to just get it done.
And have you noticed how many times people wouldn't even notice that you're in the middle of something? Like they just charge in, they start talking to you, even when you do it with a great amount of enthusiasm. Oh, hey, Jack, I know you mentioned about, and they're coming at you. And you're not listening to a word they're saying, because you're sitting there going, I was in the middle of something, I don't have time for you right now. But if you're like a super polite person, you're gonna sort of act like you're listening, and you're probably gonna stop doing what you did because you got interrupted. But the effect on that relationship is already done there. Whereas if you came up and as you entered, you noticed, hey, the person I'm about to assault here, is actually in the middle of something, and if you waited for a second to see if they could notice you, and you said, I can see you're really busy, could I come back this afternoon, do you have 5 minutes? Now, he's gonna stop and go, oh, sure, how about come at 4? And now you've changed the whole dynamic of his receptivity to whatever it was you were about to say to him. Does that make sense?
And you're gonna
that
save
goes
time,
into
and that's a boundary issue.
It's
That's a
an
boundary
observation.
issue, because we don't have boundaries, we just stepping all over people because we're not aware of what's going on internally, emotionally, and what's going on around us. And if you create this awareness, it's a game changer. You really get so much more done in less
Half the
time, and you're so much more productive at work and at home, because you're being mindful about when you're going to interact with other people and how to do that, So we're so much more effective that way. So,
What's that phrase that you use? I really want to go back to it because I thought, oh my gosh, that just changed my mind. Something about you need to let people feel it. Something you said.
Feel.
you have to feel before you deal.
Yeah, so like let that
Is it time to
person
feel?
the emotion.
You have to.
Well,
And
I would
Because
give
they're
it-
feeling it anyway. I mean, if you stub your toe, it's like my husband does this to me all the time. It's like, say you stub your toe, and you're holding your toe, you're in so much pain, you're focused on the toe, and they go, are you okay? No! Am I okay? I'm like, I'm gonna sit there and go, well, I stubbed my toe on the wall, and you don't need to be having a conversation then, you're in agony. You're just like, no! And they're trying to, it's not the time to deal, it's the time to feel. So we're gonna learn how to do that.
And what's great about that is, think of this in like simple, we use a lot of simple shorthand things. If you think this way in a sequence, feel, heal, deal. Like, you know people where something happens and like you don't give yourself the chance, the moment to just stop and feel what you feel. Because by the way, what you feel is what you feel, right? You just
You have to
like, you
feel.
can't- that's that whole positive psychology thing, like where people go, well, just be happy. Well, sometimes we can't just be happy. Like you gotta feel. If you allow yourself and others to feel what they feel, there's going to be a healing that comes from that. And once you heal, then you can deal. Like, but and it can go that fast. It doesn't have to take months or weeks.
Yeah, as you
or
get
years.
good at it, you
Moments.
really recover
Yeah,
rapidly,
it's
and
feel,
when
feel.
you know you have that space where you can, or give someone that space, they tend to rebound rapidly, where if you go into it, it just feeds the fire. And then it's just so much worse, and then you're just saying, I'm sorry, I was just upset, and I'm sorry I wasn't paying attention, I was overwhelmed with something when you walked in. And you just explaining yourself, proving, protecting, justifying, defending, as opposed to just knowing what you should do or could do, and what will work and what won't work. So it really works when you get good at this, but again, it takes practice. So let's read the goal. Do you want to go next?
To observe when emotions are elevated, to know if it is most beneficial to talk, walk, or listen.
Because you can't always just walk away. You can't be like in the middle of a conversation in the boardroom and notice that everybody's flaring up and you just think like, well, I'm gonna just get out of here and come back when they're neutral. You just can't do that. There's a time when you can walk There's a time when you could talk, and there's a time where you just have to sit there patiently, listen, wait for the storm to pass, then come back in with an effective conversation. So we're gonna learn how to do that. And I'm sure you've all witnessed this before, right? Yeah? Okay. What's the new perspective?
The only functional time to interact and problem solve is when all parties are emotionally neutral.
That's the only effective time. We can communicate otherwise, but that's really the only effective time. And it doesn't mean we have to be like completely, you know, it's just, you just can't be those highs and those lows. It's just not gonna work. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah, does it? Yeah. If it doesn't, say it, because we wanna make sure you get this, you know, down so we can practice it. So there's gonna be 3 steps involved in this one. Same thing, awareness, adjust, and action. So what's the awareness? You can go next one.
Oh, observe if you are in an unstable or stormy situation.
Right, and it could be you who's unstable, or somebody else, or both. It could be everybody, right? So what do we do next, Scott?
Pause. Where is the storm coming from? You, someone else, or both?
Right, you have to see where is it coming from. Am I bringing this? Is it coming from somebody else, or is everybody bringing this emotional instability, right? Okay, what do we do next there?
If your emotions are elevated, calmly move away from others or refrain from speaking. Stabilize yourself before interacting.
Do you think that's a good skill to learn?
And by the way, notice the operative word, calmly move away. If you like bolt through the door, throw a chair down. And even though you haven't opened your mouth, if your body language is saying, I'm out of here, you're not you're missing something, right? This is something as simple as, hey, can I take a break? I really need to use the restroom. Or, hey, you know, give me 2 seconds. Or however it is, however you do it, you
Yeah.
let people know you communicate. You don't just like.
You know, when you see a situation like that, it's so funny because, you know, when emotions are elevated, it's like a magnet. It gets like this. And, you know, we all get like hooked into it, right? But when you disengage from that without the other people knowing that you're doing it, because they shouldn't know that you're doing it, or else they're part of your solution now. Oh, he's really heated. You better calm down, and I'll come back to you later when we can have a better conversation.
When somebody tells you, you better calm down. Tell me what happened.
You got a problem.
I'm calm. Yeah, that's not a good idea.
I am calm.
So you notice,
Out of control right now. I'll be back.
you notice this is going on, right? So you have to, when you redirect, you have to redirect without making the problem the reason. So like say you use like Jill's strategy, like you're in a meeting, you see it's going way out of control, and Jack says, hey guys, this is so important to me, but I really gotta go to the bathroom. The second he leaves the room, that energy is gonna disengage. That 2 minutes makes such a difference because when he comes back in, it's gonna be a completely different conversation.
Just watch out for all the next contacts.
So leaders say that all the time, they're in a meeting and all of a sudden everybody gets up. Especially if it's like, you know what, I gotta go to the bathroom, and everyone's like,
Like, guys, this isn't a 2-minute break, this is a 5-minute break.
But even if you're in a group setting, it works because it helps everybody to see within themselves that they were emotionally charged by you being the smart one, the strong one to move away from it, disengage it. Everybody comes back in a neutral position and say, okay, let's get back to the agenda and the facts and here's where we're at. It changes, you'll watch, it changes everything.
And negative energy wants to find more negative energy to fuel itself. So when Jack leaves the room, somebody goes, what do you know? Like, if you're that person, you're just moving away from that. You know, you just.
Yeah, everybody's gonna accept you, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm
Now wait, what's the problem here?
Yeah, you're like in the meeting, you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, my throat. Let me go get some water. I'll be right back. But you don't want to make the problem the reason, or else everybody's going to just feed into it. If you could redirect kindly without making the situation the reason, you will resolve it way more rapidly than if you talk about it. Okay? So this is more what we do about it than what we talk about it. Okay? So let's talk about like if other people, or you can't change anyone other than yourself, right? So what if you notice that other people, do you want to go ahead, Jack?
If someone else's emotions are elevated, kindly redirect yourself from them, or listen supportively without trying to solve the problem.
Yeah, like, you could redirect yourself away from them if you can. Like, say you're upset and you're home, your kids are screaming. Well, you know what? I'm so sorry, my stomach's killing me, I gotta go to the bathroom, but you're important to me, when you come back 2 minutes later, it's gonna be a different conversation. Hopefully. If it's not, you'll try again.
And if you can't exit yourself, if somebody's like flaring and they're emotional and it's really not appropriate for you to leave, you know, you can, again, we'll teach you some things, but there's skills like where you literally can just listen and hold space without commenting at all. Or you can just affirm, like, you know, wow, Carol, I can see that this is really upsetting for you, and you can nod. And then she's gonna go, yeah, it is upsetting for me. She's gonna say, yeah, I can see that this is really hard. You know, all you're doing is creating space to let them vomit out all that emotion and get that out.
And they might have
You're not
to.
agreeing or disagreeing, you're not solving their problem, you're not doing anything but acknowledging that they are feeling the way they are. That's all.
Support without advice.
Support without
And,
advice.
you know, if they say, well, what do you think? Well, you know what, this is so important, and there's so much to think about. What I really want to do is take some time to go away, because I want to come back with a really good idea and solutions to this. So I'd really like to take some time with it. Then you're being so respectful to the situation as opposed to, I think this and I think that, flare, 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 okay? So we only talk in the neutral. So there's a time to walk, if we can. There's a time to talk when it's what? Neutral. And there's a time to listen. You're trapped in the car, you're on a long trip, somebody's throwing up, emotionally throwing up all over you, and you can't jump out the window. But you don't have to feed the conversation. You don't have to challenge it. You could just sit there.
And you definitely don't try to solve the problem.
No, just listen supportively.
Even if you, by the
Zip
way,
it.
and back to, you know, even if you know exactly what they should do to solve their, you're knowing exactly what the answer to their problem is never gonna be
Yeah.
appreciated or frankly is.
Because the timing is not right. Not the answer is not right, the timing is not right.
Right answer, wrong time, potentially.
Okay, so we're gonna practice impulse control, which is very hard, by delaying the direct interactions with others when emotions aren't neutral. Does that make sense? So we're gonna have to observe everything and expect nothing, because we have to see what we got, what we have, more so than what we want. Okay? So we're gonna get used to doing this. See that button right there? You notice it, you gotta hit that pause button. You decide if you're pausing. Nobody could make you engage into a conversation or situation without your permission. Right? That's your situation. So we hit the pause button, and then we decide what we're gonna do and what we're not gonna do. So what keeps us stuck, you know? What keeps us stuck? Who wants to read that?
Feeding the fire, trying to problem solve when emotions are elevated.
Yeah, we've all seen that, right? And then also, what?
Not noticing you just got emotionally hijacked.
I mean, how many of us have been emotionally hijacked? I know I have, so. Right? So, you know, in the philosophy that we live in, it's more important to be kind than to be right. You know, we all want to be right, but in biocoding, it's more important to be kind. Because that's the way we're going to get more done. We're going to have more effective conversations. We're going to save a lot of time. We're going to be more empathetic and compassionate to other people when they're struggling.
And recognize that kindness does not mean agreement with their conduct, their behavior, their ideologies, or anything else.
Okay.
Right?
So
Be
do-
buying in, just make sure, be respectful.
Okay, biocode 1, 2, and 3. You're in a stressful situation and you notice you're talking to somebody, they're getting really, really mad at you. And you're looking at them thinking like, they are so out of control. This is ridiculous. Who acts like this? This is horrible, 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 horrible behavior. And they're making you wrong. You didn't do this right, and you didn't, blame, 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 blame. Biocode 1, what do we do? Right? Biocode 2, what do we do?
Practice the opposite.
Stop the story.
We name it, and then practice the opposite.
Practice it. Biocode 3, what do we do?
Read the situation.
We
Feel
walk,
real.
Don't interact with that. Don't interact with that, right? It's not the right time for that. When we learn how to biocode, we just did it that way because we're learning it this way, but when we break out into groups, it's really going to be biocode 3 first in that case. Because the emotions are so elevated, you have to be able to notice it first before you can pull the attention back to yourself, practice patience, then redirect yourself away from it. So it really would be biocode 3, then 1, then 2, then 5.
Which we haven't got to 5 yet.
Yeah, but you see what I'm saying, that's how they work, I'm just trying to show you how they all connect to each other. It's not just linear like that, okay? So, 3, there's only 5. Okay, the top codes. Communication, so I'm gonna say that everybody, I've said it yesterday, I'll say it again, everybody speaks a common language when they're upset, when things aren't going well. Like Jill told the story, we're so good when things aren't going well of speaking about what we don't want. I don't want you to talk to me that way, I don't want you to, do things that you weren't asked, you shouldn't have done that. We talk in apostrophe T's, can't, shouldn't, wouldn't, couldn't, don't, not, all the, we don't ask what we want, we complain about what we don't want, right? So like the funny, analogy to the waiter at the restaurant, if life's here to serve you, and people in your peer group are here to serve you and help you, right? But if you tell them what you don't want, how are they gonna figure out what you want? But we didn't learn how to speak that way. So we have to translate and figure out, they're gonna say it in the knots, and you're gonna have to figure out, what's the real ask? What are they really trying to say, right? Because we can't understand from what we don't want. Because if the waiter said, well, what do you want? And you go, well, I don't want the turkey sandwich. Let's discuss, that's horrible. Who likes that? Like, they would look like, all right, lady, well, what do you want? Oh, I'll have the soup. Oh, okay, here you go. We have to learn how to ask for what we want, but other people are gonna speak in the don'ts and the can'ts and the so, right? So we have to be able to decode and translate. So biocode 4, we're gonna learn how to say things in a way where people could understand it, and we're gonna try to understand what they're really trying to say behind the dysfunctional words, regardless of how they say it, meaning they're gonna say it wrong, we're gonna hear it right. Does that make sense? So nobody has to change. This is a game changer. I know I say that about a lot of them, but this one really is, because the biggest problem we have in the world, bar none, is a breakdown of communication when things aren't said right. Okay, so we're gonna learn how to do this. So the goal, we'll start all around again.
To express yourself effectively regardless of the weaker words or actions of others.
And you're gonna see them all day, every day. So to be able to express yourself, like, it's perfect that you got that. Yeah, express yourself effectively regardless of the weaker words or actions of another. Would that be a benefit for you? Where it doesn't like get you going every single time? So the new perspective is,
There are hidden good intentions that can be found behind dysfunctional words.
meaning when I say good intentions, there's an ask. There's an ask. There's something that they want. There's something they want from you. They just don't know how to say it because they weren't taught how to do that. But behind the way that they say it is something that they're wanting from you. They're not trying to complain. They really are asking for something that they want. Like when you tell that employee, like, hey, listen, you didn't do this, that, or the other, you're really not sitting here trying to be her teacher. You really want something from her, right? But we don't know how to say it that way. Does that make sense? Okay, so there's good intentions and behind the dysfunctional words, and you can create healthy interactions regardless of how things are said. So we're gonna learn how to do the next right thing regardless of how things are said or done. Very powerful leadership skill right there. I mean, if you walk away with one code and you get this one and start practicing this one, I mean, take your leadership team up to the highest level of really being able to decode conversations when they aren't flowing properly or when somebody is just complaining. No one has to change but you. So you're actually helping them, okay? So everything starts with awareness. What's the awareness?
Recognize when a conversation is challenging. The tip is assume the other person is trying to ask for what they need, not just complaining.
That's the tip right there. Now, instead of making an assumption and just like, you know what I mean, like shooting them in the foot, let's just assume they want to ask for what they want. They just never, where did we learn this? Mother, father, teacher, preacher. It's not their fault. If they could have said it healthier, I'm sure they would have, but we didn't learn these skills, right? So let's just assume that they're trying to ask for what they want, but they can't do it. There's a little bit of a handicap going on there, right? So instead of making them wrong, let's see them as weak in communication instead of like they're just being defiant or they're just pushing against us. Instead of trying to judge them, let's just say, wow, they must have some weak skills in communication going on. Let me help out the situation by answering it as if they said it right the first time. Okay? Does that make sense? So we're going to have to adjust the way we think about this. So how are we going to do that?
Find the underlying good intention, silently translate the weaker words into I want, I'd like, or I'd prefer.
Okay, so this is the magic right here. So somebody's going to say it wrong, like, I don't like the way you're talking to me. And it looks like they're talking about you, but where the words come from, they belong to, okay? So if someone says, I don't like the way you're talking to me, you already saw there's a don't in there, so they're saying what they don't want, right? There's a don't, there's a can't, there's a not. So you're gonna not take that personally, and we're clearly not gonna get them wrong because they have a handicap in a weakness in communication in that moment, right? So you're gonna say, what are they really trying to say? They're trying to ask for what they want, and the key to this biocode is it's not about you. If I say, you're not listening to me, it's not about you, it's about me. You get that? So we're gonna return to sender. In your mind, you're gonna say, what is Jill really trying to say when she says, you're not listening to me? Maybe I'm trying to say, I want to be heard. I prefer to have undivided attention when I speak. You see, they're trying to say something like that, they just don't know how to say it. So if I say, you're not listening to me, and you hear in your mind, she wants to be heard, right? Just say, oh, you know, I'd love to hear what you have to say, because I know this is important to you. Please say that again. You just threw that whole dysfunctional conversation out the window, because they feel, exactly. You helped them along, instead of just, you're not listening to me. I'm not listening to you. Are you in my brain? Are you in my ears? I know you'll prove, protect, justify, defend because you're going to take it personally. If you don't take it personally, remove yourself from the situation and try to figure out what their ask is, what they want, right? You know, you didn't get the work done on time. And I'm really upset because now the whole project is out the window. You think I'm blaming you, but what I'm really saying is, I want the project to stay on time. What do we need to do to get it back on track? Well, I want the project to stay on time too, Jill. So let's put our heads together and think about what we can do to get this back on track. It takes dysfunctional situations and that will derail in a minute and immediately puts them back on course, and then you feel supported by the person. Exactly. See, Juan gets me. He wants the project on track. But it sounds at first like I'm insulting you, right? But I'm really not. I just don't know how to ask for what I want. I just see the problem and point it out and complain. Because I learned how to do it that way. We all have learned how to do it that way.
And she said a really important thing, like where the complaint comes from, the complaint lives. Did y'all catch that? Like he who's complaining is the one that has the problem. So when you take someone's complaint personally, you're already...
Now you both have a problem.
Now you both have a problem, right? So like a really good example is, now by the way, you know, you got to separate, and I'll use an example to show you. You have to separate somebody giving you like feedback, constructive feedback that doesn't feel good. It's not a complaint, right? That they're trying to tell you something you really need to hear and listen to. So that's different, but I'll give you an example. And you know, we do this, we use our kids so often just because, you know, that's where you get so much of your, you know, your information in life around that. But so an example would be, and all women in the room can relate to this, and I want to use a sensitive subject because it gets you to realize how easy it is to do this, even when it's a really tough complaint. So my daughter gets invited to lunch from a friend of hers at work, a colleague. And they get to lunch and he goes, hey, listen, Danielle, you know, I need to share some feedback with you. And so already, when somebody says that to you, what happens right out of the gate? Right, your hackles are up, like, you're like, guns up. So he goes, you know, some of us around the office, some people around the office have noticed that David, like, took you to lunch last week, David's vice president. You know, and he just doesn't take, you know, people at your level to lunch. And then, you know, we noticed you also got invited to like Monday morning's, you know, senior staff meeting, and You know, that doesn't usually happen. So people are kind of wondering, like, is something up with you and David? And, you know I'm your friend, and I just wanted you to know people are saying these things. Now, do you think that's a potential reaction where, what could her reaction be to that complaint, right? So she, of course, did what any of us would do who didn't have the benefit of thinking this way. She's like, well, who's saying that? That's not true. People are, I would never do that, and she's in a, like, massive upset. He's like, well, I just want you to know, blah, blah, blah. And so then she's upset, she has lunch, she stews about it all afternoon. She calls me that night, and she's crying on the phone. She's like, oh my God, Mom, like, everybody at work thinks I'm sleeping with the boss. That's her interpretation, right? And I'm like, well, like, okay, so she's obviously upset. I was like, honey, calm down, it's okay, we'll work through this, get her calm, let her settle, let her vomit. And I said, so tell me exactly what happened. So she slows down, she tells the story, and I said, so is anything remotely true about what he shared with you? Like, is that even remotely possible that anything could be going on? She goes, and I said, no, and I said, just fact-based. And she goes, no, nothing. I said, so it's not true? And she goes, no. I said, well, then you have to return to sender with a smile, because it's not about you, it's about them. If people are seeing this and observing this, what might be going on with them? She goes, well, they're just jealous because I'm doing my damn job and I'm, being recognized for it. I'm like, okay, so it's not your problem. You're going to return to sender with a smile. But how would I do that? It's like, okay, let's replay your lunch. You go to lunch, you sit down, Matthew says, Danielle, blah, 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 and you say, and you notice this, and you realize, like, this doesn't have anything to do with me. You say, you know what, Matthew, I really value our friendship, and I know you're telling me this because you care about me, and you really took me to lunch to be a good friend. However, that's like not how I roll. Like, I don't do that kind of stuff. I do my job and move on. So thanks for sharing that, but hey, oh, you know what, I just realized I have a meeting at 2 o'clock. We gotta move this lunch along. I forgot about that. Or you say, are you going to Braves game Friday? Like, you're done with that conversation, right? You return to sender with a smile. Thank you for being helpful. Not about me. And I said, what's going to happen when he goes back to the office? They go, did you tell her? Did you tell her? Did you give her the feedback? He's going to go, well, yeah, I did. But she's like, not a problem. It's not my deal. I'm good. Then it's just gone. It's now if they want to go take that negative stuff and stew around it, like, that's their thing. But now she lost an entire day of her life, like, in an upset over something that had nothing to do with her. To see how that can go that way. We do it all the time. So the sooner you stop the story, catch it, don't take it personally, interpret what somebody was really trying to say, or their complaint sheet, turn it around, and then go on, and don't carry that with you through the day. It's like an example of a turnaround.
Yeah, and it's the idea of getting confident within yourself, because if you know your truth, do you need to prove to somebody else that? Not really. Like, if I said to you, like, wow, your green hair looks great today, like, you wouldn't go, why do you think I have green hair? Why did Jill say I have green hair? You wouldn't go there. You go like, that's interesting. I'm curious why you're thinking that way, but, as far as I'm concerned, it's blonde. I just thought it had a tinge of green. Well, thanks for sharing. All right, so let's, so what are you doing for lunch today? Next. We can't get hooked into all these things that aren't really healthy.
My mother would say, don't complain, don't explain.
No complain, don't explain. And we say no proving,
Protecting.
no protecting, no justifying, and no defending. Period.
But haven't you heard that your whole life, the no complaining rule? How many of you heard no?
There's nothing nice to say.
But the problem with that, if you have nothing nice to say nothing at all. But the problem again with the no complaining rule is you have to know how to not complain or how to turn it around.
How to move through.
Otherwise, all you feel like you're doing is betraying yourself because stuff's coming at you and then you just can't complain about it. But if you feel something, you have a legitimate situation that has to be addressed. You don't want to just not complain. So this is not about, that people have to complain because there's a want or a need.
Or they think they're helping. Like even the person that said that to her daughter, they think they're doing you a favor. It's just, they think there's a good intention in that. You might not think so, but that has nothing to do with you. So, if it resonates with you and it feels good, it is about you. If it doesn't feel good, it's not about you, and you have the option to just dump it in the dumpster on the way out the door and carry on. You don't have to take other people's stuff with you,
well,
right?
The whole before, during, or after thing that we talked about before, in that case, So my daughter went back to work the next day, and I said, okay, so tomorrow morning when you get to work and you run into Matthew or you have the coffee machine or wherever you see him, it's after, but you can go, yo, Matthew, hey, I wanted to mention something to you. I thought about what you said yesterday at lunch, and I realized I got upset about it, but then when I thought about it later, I realized, like, there's no reason for me to, so just do it then. So you just reset, you know, even though she didn't catch it when it happened to her, and then she did that the next morning, and then she texted me afterwards, she's like, God, I felt so good after I had that conversation.
And I'll share to that point, this is something I think when everybody hears it's so exciting because you just see how much it can help, but it's really hard. And like I found that a lot of times I'm hearing stuff and I know like I need to figure out what they're really trying to say, and in that moment I'm not able to spin their words. Like I can't figure it out what it is. But I think there again it's really important to praise. Like praise yourself just for noticing it, and as you practice it more and more, it becomes more second nature to pull out, you know, what you need to hear out of it. So just like what we talked about when we got in here with bringing it back to yourself, you miss it a lot, and I found myself missing or not able to get through this one as much as some of these other things.
This is
but
hard.
Just recognizing it is the first step, and you got to reward yourself, praise yourself for that, and it gets easier over time.
I mean, I think part of the challenge with that, right, like, 'cause Derek and I have very tense conversations sometimes. And I think part of the dynamic is we genuinely care what each other feels. And so I think that's part of, I mean, so I'm hearing what you're saying. I think the resistance is if Derek said to me, I think you're a horrible person. I mean, a part of me wants to be like, I don't care. But then a part of me like, wait, Derek, you can care that I'm a horrible person because I like you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I think the dynamic, I think for most of our teams and most of us as an organization, we genuinely like each other and we have a genuine.
Of course.
And so if Taylor were to say something about me, it would be hard for me just to dismiss it as, that's hers. Because a part of me is like, she's, and I don't want to use the F word, but I'll use it, like she's my friend. And as my friend, like I feel like, really Taylor, you think that? Like, so it makes you be, and I think we are relatively introspective people. So I think that I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's just hard not to.
You just have to watch out if the words are helpful or hurtful. Is it making you reflect upon yourself and beat yourself up, or are you using it as information to make you a better person? Are these words helpful or hurtful? If they feel hurtful, you're gonna have to translate. If they're helpful, like, oh, your green hair looks good today. Oh, tell me more about that because I love the color green. How do you, if it's helpful, have that conversation. If it's hurtful and it's not really useful for you, it's not benefiting you. Like if he's having a humorous conversation and go like, my worst enemy over here, you know that's not hurtful. He's just kidding around with you. But if he looked over and said like, oh God, I can't believe she's doing that again, and you find out around the corner and go like, people are talking behind my back, that's gonna be really hurtful. How do we not take that personally? How do we come back with more effective conversation? That's gonna be more useful. So we have to be able to help ourselves. This doesn't mean you're not gonna have conversations with people and have real conversations, but if they're helpful and you wanna learn more, she's your friend and she's saying something to you and you care what she thinks about that, you should have a conversation. Why wouldn't you have a conversation? But if it's hurtful, you wanna try to, not take that personally. And you wanna understand that sometimes what people mean and what they say aren't the same thing, because they say it wrong a lot. They say, someone should write the book, they say. Who are they and why are they saying so much?
And it can sound very hurtful.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why we say don't take anything personally except the good. Because so often people speak and say something hurtful, because they're frustrated or they're upset or they're trying to make something happen. They didn't stop and think about the fact that, because they justify how they said it to you because they are talking from what they don't want. So it's just that situation where, and again, to Scott's point, it takes a lot of practice, and the more scenarios you find yourself in, the more you'll see, oh, that is possible. And it's like simple things like politics. How many of you get heated conversations about politics with somebody you care about? Anybody? So this is an example where it's a ideology. We want to solve the same problem. We have different ideas about the best way to do it. So I can remember calling or checking in with Joe one time because my husband and I have political differences, and so he makes jokes. So he'll use jokes against a political party to make his point. Well, when he makes jokes, then I get mad. So then I don't respond to his joke, and he's like, he's like, well, geez, it's just a joke. And then, I would have a reaction, right? Like, blah, blah. So, this was one I couldn't get over, because I'm like, to Jill, like, how do I, navigate this? So, and I couldn't get myself, and I've been doing this for 2 years by that point in time, and I couldn't get myself out of this loop. So I said, how is there a positive intention between these negative jokes that he's telling about blah, blah, blah? And she's like, well, if he could say what he wants healthy, how would he say it? I said, well, he would say, and I'm like, I don't know, what would he say? She goes, well, he would say, I would like to have an effective federal government that doesn't take all my money from me and my taxes, that functions the way blah, blah, blah. Like, he would say that, right? And I would say, yeah, actually, that is what he would say. And she would say, so when he tells his jokes or when he starts on a rant, you say, oh, honey, I know you wish the federal government would run as well as you run this household. We all want that. That would be awesome. And then he would go, yeah, exactly. And then it's done. It doesn't turn into a all-morning argument about our political ideologies. Because all he was trying to do was say, oh, I wish we had a government that whether we agree or disagree is irrelevant, and frankly in the household doesn't matter, right? But that was like such an aha moment to me. Something that simple, I couldn't see past the, quote, my interpretation of his dysfunctional words, because I was taking it personally when he was simply trying to say, this is what I would rather say.
Okay, so let's move on, because what we want to do is we want to practice. Words are going to come in weak a lot of the time. I mean, we've all been through that, who hasn't? And we're going to try to, like on the back of this card, we're going to try to put them out better than it came in. So if somebody gives you $1 and you have a spinning wheel to turn into $100, isn't that like more worth? Well, words are the same way. They can come in weak, and by the time it spins through your reality, it's going to come out better than it came in. Therefore, not only are you helping yourself, but you're helping the other person along. I mean, isn't that a really kind way of thinking about translating, weaker words? So you help yourself. So we're going to spin like Rumpelstiltskin. They locked the guy up in the tower because he had an ability to spin straw to gold. We're going to spin weaker words to stronger words so we can help ourselves and other people. And, again, the whole objective of this is how can I help myself and others in a world where problems and people will always exist without having to change anybody other than ourselves. So,
by the way, don't skip over what keeps you stuck.
Yeah, we won't skip over. So what keeps us stuck is taking things personally, believing the words or actions were meant to hurt, right? And thinking they should have been able to say it right. I promise you, if they could have, they would have. So we're gonna should on anybody. We're gonna look at it for what it is. We're gonna see it as weakness, not arrogance. And we're gonna try to help the situation by translating Spanish to English and putting it out better than it came in. Dysfunction to function. Here's a sample script right over here. They say weaker words. You didn't do it right. Is that about you? Why? Right, where it comes, return to sender with smoke. Where it comes from, it belongs to. Your next thought, what are they really trying to say? Que te piense? Did you understand what I said? No, because I spoke a different language, right? See it like they're speaking a different language, and you're like, huh, what did Jill just try to say? I said, well, what do you think? But you didn't get that because I didn't speak English, right? What are they really trying? They're speaking dysfunctional. It's another language. They're speaking dysfunctional. What are they really trying to say? You didn't do it right. I'd like, I'd prefer, or I want. Those are the three prefixes that work, okay? What are they trying to say? You didn't do it right.
I prefer you did it differently.
I prefer you do it differently. All right, how do you want to do it? Now, if you say, you didn't do it right. What do you mean I didn't do it right? That's what I was supposed to do. That's what you told me to do. You see the difference? Proving, protecting, justifying, defending, or being functional. Dysfunctional, functional. Really, really, really works. So we're going to respond as if they said it right the first time. But they don't have to say it right. they don't have to get it, they don't have to translate, you're just gonna do it for them. So this is hard, and it takes a lot of practice. I promise you, it takes a lot of practice. So be kind to yourself and be kind to others while you try to do this. And just like learning Spanish, you're not gonna start speaking Spanish like I do. You're gonna start like, hola, ¿cómo estás? You're gonna have to pause, you're gonna have to stop, you're gonna have to think. You can't just go at the conversation. You're gonna have to really deliberately think, what do I wanna say right now? So we have to push that pause button and put space between the difficult situation so you can be mindful to even understand what they just said, because you can't learn a language overnight. And this is like a new language. You know, somebody's coming at you, you might have to go to the bathroom and say like, all right, let me take 5 minutes in the bathroom and think, what's their ask? What's their ask? And you do that a few times here and there and here and there, and day by day you start getting really good at this until you know it like a language, and it really works. So do y'all have any questions about Biocode 4?
From a concept perspective, right? I know it's all, yeah.
Okay. There's 4 biocodes that we're already learning about right now, okay? You're in a heated conversation. Somebody is really pissed. They're blaming you. They're making you wrong. They asked you to do something, you did what they said, and they said you didn't do your work properly, and now everything's messed up because of you. Biocode it. What do we do first?
Well, first you have to realize is, sort of check with yourself first, make sure that
Yeah,
that it's not about him.
That it's not good constructive feedback.
Right. Well, that's,
right?
yeah.
But use all 4 biocodes right now. You have to notice first, is there an emotional thing going on right here? Which biocode would that be?
Yeah.
Biocode 3, where is it coming from?
Yeah.
Them. What do you do next? Bring it back to yourself. What if you're frustrated by their behavior, or if you're taking it personally and feeling blamed?
Look to the practice being or whatever the other word.
The opposite. Good, because you're doing it. Then you're gonna, we didn't learn this yet, move away from the situation. You're gonna come back and have a more effective conversation when they say like, you messed up the whole project and it's all your fault. Then you're gonna come back with, I know you want the project to go smoothly and I wanna work on that with you. Let's sit down and think about some strategies together. See the difference of that kind of interaction compared to how we have historically may have done it? You just did 4 biocodes, and you see how they interact with each other, they're not just singular.
And when you do the translation, you don't have to you don't have to
Oh.
restate the person's words for
Oh,
them.
don't restate
So-
my words.
So
What I hear you saying is.
prototypical example, wife is home with the kids all day, screaming kids, blah, 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 crazy day, can't wait to have an adult conversation. Husband's at work all day, you could switch these days, these are gender, I could have done this the other way around these days, obviously. But the husband comes home from work, he's been in meetings all day, stressed to the max, he can't wait to get home and just be quiet for 15 minutes and decompress. He walks in the door, he's no sooner in the door than, the wife can't wait, oh, I'm so glad you're home, I had such a day, the kids were this, and the husband goes, I can't talk to you right now, I just, comes up, you're never wrong. Next thing you know, she's wrong, he's wrong. If either one of them, if that husband, if his wife met him at the door and she started her thing and he said, and she's complaining about the kids and this and whatever she is, and he said, honey, I know you've been with the kids all day and you really want some time with me and I really want to give you that time. I need 15 minutes to just go upstairs and change my clothes and take a break and then I'm all yours. What would she say? Okay.
Wow,
take
thanks.
30 minutes.
Thanks.
Right?
She'll feel heard as
So
opposed to
she
arguing.
didn't say it right, and he didn't say, you just talk to it as if she said it in a more functional way.
When she follows you in the closet,
Yeah,
whatever.
that's all.
He's crawling out the window in the bathroom. All right, let's knock out Biocode 5 because it's about self-navigation. And we teach people how to treat us by our participation in it. We think our words are the most powerful thing, but I think your presence is. You can't argue with me and fight with me if I'm not there, right? It's very hard to, your legs are more powerful than your words. Because the words, you're going to try to argue about it unless you know Biocode 4, but you're walking towards and walking away from. So, if you're having a conversation with someone and they start yelling, and you find a way of redirecting kindly without making them wrong, then you come back when they're neutral and there's an effective conversation, then they start getting elevated, and that happens again. After a while, they're gonna learn the only time you'll speak with them is when they're neutral. You see, you teach people how to treat you by how you allow them to participate with you. There's different rules when it comes to children and families and changing house rules that were, this is the lightest version of this, changing house rules, from things that have been instilled for a very long time. Then we have to tell them the new rules. But for the most part, in a work situation, you could really just use the tools without having to set a new boundary. Does that make sense? But at home, you do have to set boundaries, or else the person will think you're just running away and avoiding them. Say, oh, I'm practicing this leadership skill about only speaking in the neutral. So if you ever notice that I'm walking away, it's because I'm exercising that, so please don't take it personally. I love you and want to hear. I'm just practicing being fully present when we have conversations. Then when you walk away, they're going to go like, oh, now I get it, yeah. As opposed to, you're walking away from me again, really? See the difference? Right. Okay, so biocode 5, the goal.
To keep your focus forward by being fluid, flexible, and changing quickly when things are not going according to plan.
It's just really hard, because when things don't go according to plan, we tend to process it, but we don't really want to process it. We just want to notice what's our next right move from there. Doesn't mean we dump the whole project or the whole initiative, but we have to be able to get to the next space to work on it functionally from that position, right? But do we do that? No, we don't do that. We say, hey, let's go to our favorite restaurant, and you go there and the door's closed, under construction. You don't go like, oh, it's under construction, I can't believe it's under construction, I always love the sandwiches here. You don't sit there and complain, you go like, all right, well, if you don't want to go here, maybe we could go over here. That's not open, then maybe somewhere else is open. In other scenarios in life, we're good about directing and redirecting when things aren't going according to plan, except with human behavior. We have a really hard time with that. So this code helps you to do that. So the new perspective is,
Life is always here to help guide you. If you don't make the changes needed, life will do it for you.
have you ever noticed that? Like if you don't move forward yourself, life will give you a shove and tell you, try again, try again, try again, try again, right? So you can't really hide from it, you just pay attention at different levels. Okay, what's the awareness?
Observe if you are stuck in a situation. Tip, whenever you feel trapped, rejected, excluded, stop and notice the door is closed.
Yeah, do you ever try to force your way into a situation that's closed? Somebody's not open to listening or talking right then and there. Like you talked about, somebody's not really present, and you're trying to force your way into proving your point there, and you don't even notice, like you just walked into a closed door and you were never getting in anyway. We have to be able to notice if we're in a situation that's stuck and we keep doing it again and again and again and again, or it's stagnant. Are we trying to prove, protect, or justify, or force our way in, or are we directing and redirecting our path, right? So how do we do that?
Consider other choices to help you move forward. The tip, trust the new direction will ultimately lead you to a better outcome than you can see today.
That's hard, because you have to launch into the unknown and trust greater than that moment, because we have attachments to what we see in front of us. But if you knew for a fact that life was helping you along by giving you these little nudges, and what's ahead of you that you can't see yet is greater than the stuck point, right? Like if you knew Santa was coming, 100% he's coming, and he was going to bring you a gift, but you didn't know when, you wouldn't get like, oh, when's my gift coming? Maybe it won't come, and I can't believe it, I'm probably not going to get what I want. Every day you'd run to that mailbox or to the chimney, whatever, and you'd be like, oh, maybe it's here today, maybe it's here. You'd get so excited about it because you know your gifts are coming. When you're in a stuck position, instead of thinking about the stuck position, let's think if we flow around that, something greater will unstuck, it will open up, leading you to something even better than what you see today. We want to fall in love with the unknown. That's where our gifts are, instead of staying attached to remove what's in front of us. Okay? Does that make sense? So how do we do that? What's the action step?
Practice redirecting away from things that don't serve you without taking anything personally or making anyone wrong. Tip, people that are flexible and not attached to specific outcomes will move faster and create new possibilities effortlessly.
Jack, is that true? People who are flexible and fluid and change on a dime win. When you have attachments to things, you can't build a company like this. The people that I have met that have created the most success are people who have no attachments. Man, they set those intentions, they drop all expectation to outcome, they become fluid and flexible along the way, and they change on a dime if they have to. If that's not working, then maybe this will. If that doesn't work, then maybe that will. Because they know that their goal's coming, their gifts are coming, but it comes from unexpected places, from surprises. It's never predictable. You didn't do this. It wasn't, you didn't say like, hey, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do this.
You've heard that thing, life is what happens when you are making other plans, right?
Yeah, but how do we navigate that? Because on the way to JA, a lot of boulders got in his way and all of your way, right? But you didn't say like, oh, I can't believe that didn't work. If you are a stream, like a stream of consciousness or stream, and there's a boulder in your way, what does the stream do? It flows around it. And when it flows around it, you know what it's doing? It's changing the path to where it really needs to go, not where you think it should go. It's never from point A to point B over there. It's like this. And if you don't pay attention to that and learn how to change on a dime and not have attachments that having to look a certain way, you're gonna stay stuck. Am I telling the truth? I mean, you know that being a CEO, you have to
When you
know that.
climb a mountain, does anybody start at the bottom and climb to the top of the mountain in a straight line? Never.
Navigate.
You know, you're switchbacking, because you learn as you go. You
Yeah.
find the boulders, you wanted to go this way and you realize there's a 50-foot canyon there and you can't go that way. Like, that's the way you go. Always, life goes that way.
Yeah. So when we're dealing with business, you want to take this company to the highest level that it could be. There's no such thing as rejection. You couldn't do this wrong even if you tried. It's either direction or redirection, direction or redirection. To learn how to have that kind, you know this, flexible thinking, you got to be able to be so fast on your thoughts. Okay, if it's not you, then maybe it's you. If he can't do that, then they can. You're not saying like, why couldn't he do that? He should have been doing that. You got to be able to move through thoughts and things so rapidly in order to keep growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. So with BioCode 5, man, you're gonna learn how to change on a dime. You're gonna learn how to fall in love with the unknown. You're gonna learn how to direct and redirect your moves rapidly without taking anything personally or making the situation or other people wrong. All we're doing is gonna be in a constant state of forward motion, knowing that's what's taking us there. It's never what you think that's in front of you. You know, it's always past that and past that. We're never really ever there. As soon as you accomplish what you accomplish, you know what you say? All right, where do we go from here? How do we take it to Gwinnett? Now, how do we get into Forsyth? How do we talk to the people in Cobb? You're never there. Have you noticed you never have arrived? You're never satiated. You don't do one thing, you eat that meal and go, you know what?
Never have to eat again.
That was it, I'm good. We're never done because we're always about growth. We're always about growth. You can't ever be there. So we have to fall in love with this process of being in the unknown. Every person in this room lives in the unknown all day, every single day, whether you get that or not. You don't know what I'm gonna say. I don't even know what I'm gonna say. Am I gonna sit this way? Am I gonna sit this way? Whether it's close to the moment or far from the moment, it's still always in the unknown. We need to start to see the unknown and change in a really positive light in order to grow ourselves, our families. Well, if you didn't make the cheerleading team, then maybe you're supposed to be on gymnastics. As opposed to, oh, you didn't make the cheerleading? Well, that sucks. You were so much better than her. Really? You know who knows how to do BioCode 5 brilliantly? Kids. It's Easter. The Easter eggs are all planted. They know they're hidden and they're planted. There's no doubt that it's not there. They got their little baskets and their little hats and their bunnies and they're ready and we say, your mark, it's set, go. And every year it's behind this cup, every year. And the kids run immediately to the cup. They go like that and it's not there. You know what they do? Well, if it's not there, then maybe it's here. If it's not here, then maybe it's there. If it's not here, maybe it's there. They don't go like, oh, it was there last year. Should have been there. all predictions said it was gonna be that way. If it's not Chick-fil-A, then maybe it's Taco Bell. If it's not Coke, then maybe it's Pepsi. If it's not... Move, 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 move. If you don't get Biocode 5, you're gonna stay so stuck. And you're just gonna be complaining about where it's not, instead of getting excited about, well, if it's not that, phenomenal. Then I have to spend time on that and I can get to that. We can do that on small moves. We can do that in conversations. We can do that in big moves, but we gotta do that. We gotta do that. That's the winning strategy for business, period. Keep the focus on yourself, get strong in it, notice what's going on around you, have effective conversations, and change on a dime when you have to, knowing what's ahead of you is greater than what you see today, period. You learn these 5 bio-codes and start implementing them again and again and again on tiny micro levels or macro levels. You will be unstoppable in life, unstoppable. But we gotta learn how to do it in our real life. And real life is anything you touch, internally or externally. Your thoughts, your emotions, your people, your business, what you say, what you do, how you act, and how you interact with life. And you make a mistake, and next, try again. You say, oh, I'm gonna sign them up. You didn't sign them up. It didn't work. They closed the door. They went with a competitor. Well, if they're not our guy, then who is? If they're not the one, then who is? Okay, if we're not going with that consulting firm, then we'll go with this one. Next, 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 next is your word. You get that? If it's working, keep going with it. If it's not, next.
That great metaphor is that GPS metaphor.
Oh, I love the GPS metaphor because, you know, the GPS is directing you, right? So, you know, we're driving here today and the GPS is on and saying like, okay, now go down Johnson's Ferry Road, right? Could you imagine if your GPS said this to you? Go down Johnson's Ferry Road and don't make a left at the light. Wait, what? Like, what do you do with that? Well, do I go straight? Do I go backwards? Why shouldn't I make a left at the light? You know, your GPS is telling you, go left, go right, go forward, and if you make the wrong turn, you know what it says? Redirecting, redirecting, Biocode 5, redirecting, redirecting.
Make a
It's
legal
bringing you to where you need to go, not where you think you should go. You know, if you could have predicted your life, one day I'm gonna grow up and I'm gonna become a doctor and I'm gonna marry this guy and I'm gonna have 2 kids and I'm gonna live in this beautiful house with this picket fence and really, on the way to life, you know, and he got a brain tumor and then the kids did this and then the kid has dyslexia and it, like, are you kidding me? It doesn't happen that way. You start off, and we're gonna learn this and we're gonna master this with a good intention. Who here knows how to golf? Okay, well I don't, so play with me. You got a good idea right over here. This is you. You got your goal. I am going to turn this company into the greatest company in the planet. It is going global. Boom. I see it. It's right there. It's so obvious, right? Seems so simple. I got what it takes. Here's the ball. Here's the stick. I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to go like that, right? And you go ahead and do that, and there you are in the brush over there going like, what the heck is wrong with Tom? It doesn't even make sense, right? And you're like, oh, we're so far away from that. So what do? You're like, all right, I got what it takes. I've come this far. I know I could do this. You go like this and you take a shot at it and you go, shh. Why am I so far away from my goal? If you look from that perspective, you're going to get worn down and you're going to get worn down fast. But I work with a professional golfer, right? And if I said, hey, come here and show me what's going on, and he's going to go, all right, take a swing in it. I see it. I see it. Why isn't this connected? And I'll go, well, Jill, just do this. Take your shoulder and move it a tiny bit this way. That much. Try it now. Because small change from the self perspective, like a protractor, creates huge change in your results. Focus on your moves in it. Notice your results, but understand to get to where you want is a tiny little change in you by directing and redirecting your moves, your conversations, by regulating yourself, by keeping the focus on yourself, by building that emotional strength that you need. It's tiny, tiny micro moves, like a protractor. Did you ever notice that? You move the protractor on this side that much and it creates that much of a difference. You get that? So we're gonna set our intention. Our intention is to be the best that we could be, right? Isn't that what we all want? Here, there, and everywhere. We wanna conquer it all because that's what we all want. As soon as we do that, don't get tripped up on what you see in front of you. Set your intentions and drop, what does it say next?
All expectations.
Do you see the word all? It doesn't say some, all, because you better be keen, observant. You gotta have a pulse on yourself and on life and awareness and become fluid and flexible along the way, because I guarantee your gifts are coming. They are 100% coming, but they come from unexpected places. It's like surprises. You get that? So we have to fall in love with the unknown. That's where our gifts are, right? So is this making sense?
Yes, can we go back to the daughter cheerleading example?
Yeah.
So she comes home and she doesn't make cheerleading, you're like,
Right.
well, you're supposed to be on the
No,
gymnastics
no.
team.
I'm just giving you the Reader's Digest version of it, but I'm just saying the Biocode 5 will show you that her highest and best move after she feels it in Biocode 3, after you center yourself and you have an effective conversation with her, is to encourage her that there's something greater than that. So it's not singular, right? Or else it's gonna look like I'm a cold ass with all of these things, but really not. It's like make sure
Well, it
those
also
evident-
invalidates being able to sit in it for a little bit and what you learn from sitting. in it.
Which you
Well,
learned that
actually-
Biocode 3 would come first. You're gonna be with her, you're gonna give her support without advice, you're saying, I'm here for you, I love you, I know you're disappointed, I know you really wanted that, let's just be with that. Then once she gets neutral and so forth, then you're gonna,
And actually, you know,
Spin it
again, in
around.
that scenario, again, what could be being directed or being shown is, you know, you've got to work on your gymnastic skills. You know, this day and age, the bar expectation for cheerleaders
True.
is to have great
True.
gymnastic skills. So you know what, you have great dance skills, you've got a really good this, you know, maybe you didn't make the team, let's find out what your gap is. Let's get you, let me get you a coach and we'll work on that. You know, it's not always that you're gonna go guardrail to guardrail. The adjustments aren't always like this or that. Sometimes it's a minor adjustment.
and in business, it's not an absolute.
Right.
Say you're working towards Coke over there, and it looks like they just shut the door in your face, but it might not really be shut. It doesn't mean like, well, if it's not Coke, it's Pepsi. You might have a lot more conversations and all of a sudden you see the opening, and then you go through that. So it's not a macro thing, it could be micro moves. Well, if I can't talk to the president of Coke, well, maybe I'll talk to the vice president, maybe I'll talk to operations. It's still fluid and flexible in the situation. It doesn't mean you throw everything out and it's not an absolute. It's
But
a
if
lot
you-
of micro moves.
But if you get fired from your job, you know, that's a closed
Yeah.
door, right? I mean, that's not ambiguous.
If we wanna stay on the river metaphor, the obstacles come in all different shapes and sizes. So if you go to the Chattahoochee River and you drop a rock this big in it, the river flows over it. But if you drop a rock 20 feet in it, the river hits it and moves around it. But if you put a mountain in front of it, the river turns right. So the size of the obstacle is always different. It doesn't mean you're not ever gonna just run through the obstacle, because sometimes the obstacle is a plastic sheet and you can run right through it. But sometimes it's a brick wall and you need to turn or adjust around it.
Right, so again, nothing's absolute. These are just general ideas and concepts you're gonna have to practice in different scenarios depending upon what you're dealing with. Chances are whatever you think like, well, that won't work because of blah, 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 blah. It means you probably didn't realize what the entry point was. That's why. Because you can't just look at somebody who's emotionally sad and say like, just be happy. It's not gonna
You don't
happen.
go from, I'm really devastated to, come on,
Just
let me
don't
help
worry
you write
about
your
it.
resume, you know?
Yeah,
there's
that's
a
not the
step in
point.
between, you know, there's.
Yeah,
Right.
that's why there's many steps. There's a step for emotions, there's a step for communication, there's a timing involved, there's a step to build yourself up, there's a step to be empathetic to other people, there's a step to go towards and a step to go away. That's why it's a system, it's not singular, or else you're just gonna do the don't worry about it thing, or just live in the moment. It's not gonna work that way. If you took one of these only, you'd have a hard time. Because then you would just be, just get over it, just get over it, just get over it. You can't just get over things. And you shouldn't just say, well, if that doesn't work, then I'll just go after another client. Because it probably would still work. You're just either with the wrong person or in the wrong conversation or whatever it might be.
Or you're expecting again to swing the club and get there on the first swing, you know, maybe you have to get it onto the fairway, then you gotta move it up to there, and you gotta get it on the green, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes no means go. I mean, it might, you know. I mean, that's how I see life. I have to really make sure it's a no before it's a no. I really have to, because so much in it, it could be just the person in front of me more than the situation.
We talk about that in sports, Scott talks about this a lot. A lot of times, no is motivation. Said another way, rejection is the fuel you need to take yourself to the next level. So Jill's point, no
Yeah.
means go.
Yeah,
You're
I
too
mean, it
small,
just
not
depends.
fast enough, you'll never make it. You know, that's fuel.
It's
for
not
a
like,
lot of
oh,
people.
okay.
It's- You go, okay, great, you know, that's what they think, now watch me. So, you know, it's not a function, you know, that's why we say there's no such thing as rejection. You know, that somebody's rejected you, well, no, they're not really, they're redirecting you, you know, and you're going with that, so, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, we're gonna break out into groups now, and we're gonna start to practice them. So, Scott will have a team, I'll take a team, yeah, and Jill will take a team. Do you wanna take a 5-minute bathroom break? And then we'll do that, and now we're gonna start putting the biocodes to work. So y'all could pick wherever you wanna go, we'll just divide equally.